My son called me an embarrassment for 18 years. Then I sold my company for $73 million. And suddenly his phone started working again. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. This is a story about tough love, redemption, and why sometimes the cruelest kindness is refusing to rescue someone who needs to save themselves. The banker's handshake was firm, almost congratulatory, as she slid the document across her mahogany desk. Congratulations, Mr. Harrison. The sale of Harrison Industrial Solutions is now complete. $73 million. I stared at the number on the paper. After 32 years of building that company from my garage, watching it grow from welding small parts for local contractors to manufacturing components for aerospace companies across North America, it all came down to this single figure, $73 million. The irony wasn't lost on me. 18 years ago, I'd been standing in a food bank line in East Vancouver, wondering if I'd have enough to feed myself that week. My son Andrew had made it very clear back then that a failure like me had no place in his life or near his new wife's family. His exact words, actually spoken in the driveway of my repossessed house. You're an embarrassment, Dad. Jennifer's father is a doctor. What am I supposed to tell them? That my dad can't even keep a job? I pocketed the banker's card and walked out into the crisp Toronto autumn afternoon. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad. I stopped walking. 18 years of silence. And now this. Andrew's voice. Older, but unmistakable. Dad, it's Andrew. I need to talk to you. It's important. I stood there on Bay Street, watching business people hurry past, everyone chasing their own version of success. How did you get this number? I hired someone, a private investigator. Look, I know we haven't spoken, but I saw the article in the Globe and Mail about your company sale. Dad, I'm in trouble. Real trouble. Can we meet? Part of me wanted to hang up right there, but I'd spent 18 years imagining this moment, running through scenarios, wondering what I'd say if he ever came back. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to see him, to understand what had turned my son into someone who could abandon his father at rock bottom. Where are you staying? The Four Seasons. King Street. Of course he was. Even broke, Andrew would pick the most expensive hotel in Toronto. Some things never changed. I'll be there in an hour. Room number? 1214. Dad, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you. I hung up before he could finish. The walk to the hotel gave me time to think, to prepare, to remember. The Four Seasons lobby was exactly as pretentious as I'd expected. All marble and gold fixtures and staff who looked like they'd been hired for their bone structure. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt like ascending into another world, one where Andrew had always belonged and I never had. I knocked on 1214. The door opened immediately, like he'd been waiting right behind it. Dad. He looked older, 43 now, with gray starting at his temples and lines around his eyes that hadn't been there when I'd last seen him. He was thinner, too, dressed in an expensive suit that hung slightly loose on his frame. The look of someone who'd been under stress for a while. Andrew, can I hug you? I stepped into the room without answering the question. It was a suite, naturally. Living area, bedroom visible through an open door, probably cost $800 a night. Nice room. Andrew closed the door, wringing his hands. Dad, I know what you're thinking. Do you? That I'm here because of the money. And I'd be right, wouldn't I? He flinched. It's complicated. It always is. Look, can we sit? I stayed standing. Say what you came to say. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from when he was a boy and something had gone wrong at school. I'm bankrupt. The business I started, it failed. Jennifer left me 6 months ago, took the kids. I'm living in a friend's basement. I've got creditors coming after me for $200,000. Dad, I need help. And you thought of me. Yes. After 18 years of nothing, not a call, not a card, not a single word to let me know if you were alive or dead, you thought of me. I know how it looks. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you only remembered I existed when you saw that article about my company's sale. It looks like I'm worth your time now that I have money. That's not fair, isn't it? Let me ask you something, Andrew. In these past 18 years, did you ever wonder how I was doing? If I was okay? If I'd managed to rebuild my life after losing everything? His silence was answer enough. I thought about you every day. Convenient timing for that revelation. Dad, please, I'm disparity. I need $1 million. Just a loan. I'll pay you back. I promise. $1 million. He said it like it was nothing, like asking to borrow $20 for gas. Yes, to clear my debts, to get back on my feet, to start over. Dad, you have $73 million. $1 million is nothing to you. It would change my entire life. I walked to the window, looked out over Toronto, the city where I'd been born, where I'd raised Andrew, where I'd lost everything and then clawed my way back. Tell me about that day, I said. What day? You know what day. The day you stood in my driveway and told me I was an embarrassment. Dad, I was young. I was scared. Tell me. I could hear him breathing behind me, rapid and shallow. Jennifer's family, they had standards. Her father kept asking about you, about what you did, and I couldn't tell them you'd lost your job at the plant, that you were behind on the mortgage, that I was a failure, that I wasn't good enough to be associated with their precious daughter. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Because I remember it pretty clearly. You told me not to come to the wedding. You said Jennifer's family didn't need to know about me. You said I'd ruin your new life. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? From what? From being judged. From being looked down on. I thought if I kept you separate, if I just cut ties for a while, it would be better for both of us. And when did you plan to reconnect? After you'd established yourself? After you'd proven to Jennifer's family that you came from good stock? I don't know. I kept meaning to reach out, but then time passed and it got harder, and I told myself you were probably doing fine without me, and it was easier to just pretend I didn't exist. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. 18 years too late. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway because I'm drowning here, and you're the only person who can help me. I turned to face him. He had tears in his eyes, but I'd seen Andrew cry before. He'd cried when I'd told him I couldn't afford to help him buy his first house. He'd cried when I'd said I couldn't invest in his first business venture. Andrew's tears had always been about what he wasn't getting, never about what he'd done. You want to know something? I said. After you left me in that driveway, after you drove away in your new car to your new life, I stood there for an hour. Just stood there, wondering what I'd done wrong. Wondering how I'd raised a son who could abandon his father like that. Dad, I slept in my car that night because the bank had changed the locks. I ate at soup kitchens. I showered at the YMCA. And you know what I thought about? I thought about you. I thought about making sure you never knew how far I'd fallen because I didn't want you to feel guilty. I protected you from seeing your father at his worst. And you thanked me by pretending I didn't exist. I'm a terrible person. I know that. But I'm trying to be better. Dad, please. I just need this one thing, and I swear I'll make it right. I'll pay you back. I'll be in your life again. We can rebuild our relationship. I pulled out an envelope from my jacket pocket. I'd prepared it months ago, after I'd first gotten inquiries about selling my company. Call it intuition. Call it preparation. But something told me this moment was coming. This is a check for $50,000. His eyes widened. It's enough to pay for a decent apartment for a year, food, basic expenses. It's enough to give you time to find a real job, not to start another business, but to work for someone else. To learn humility. To understand what it means to build something from the ground up with your own hands. Dad, that's not nearly enough to... There are conditions. I held up the envelope, keeping it out of his reach. 1. You will not contact me again until you have paid back every dollar of this $50,000. Not from family money, not from another failed business, but from honest work. His face fell. 2. You will get professional help. Therapy. Because the person who could abandon his father the way you did has deeper problems than money can fix. Dad. 3. You will volunteer 20 hours a month at a food bank, a homeless shelter, somewhere that serves people at their lowest. You need to understand what rock bottom actually looks like. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. And 4, you will write me a letter by hand once a month, not asking for anything, not updating me on your progress, just reflecting on what you've learned. I may not respond. I haven't decided yet. But you will write them. And if I do all that, then maybe we can start to rebuild something. Not what we had, because that's dead and buried, but something new, something honest. He stared at the envelope. $50,000 for 18 years of nothing. That's what I'm worth to you? No, I said quietly. That's what you're worth to yourself right now. Nothing. You've proven you can't be trusted with real money or real responsibility. You've proven you'll cut and run when things get hard. You've proven your love has a price tag. I set the envelope on the coffee table. This is me giving you a chance to prove you can be more than that. Take it or leave it. But understand this. If you don't take it, I walk out that door and you never see me again. And if you do take it and you break any of those conditions, the same thing happens. You get one chance, Andrew. Just one, which is one more than you gave me. He looked at the envelope, then at me, then back at the envelope. His hand trembled as he reached for it. Why? He asked. Why are you even offering this? I don't deserve it. You're right. You don't. I headed toward the door. But I do. I deserve to know I tried. I deserve to know I was the bigger person. And I deserve to sleep at night knowing that when my son was drowning, I threw him a rope, even if he left me to drown 18 years ago. I opened the door, then paused. One more thing. The private investigator you hired, that cost you $5,000, according to my lawyer who's been monitoring any inquiries about me since the sale was announced. You spent $5,000 to find me so you could ask for $1 million. Think about that. Think about how that looks. Think about what it says about who you've become. His face went white. You knew I was coming. I knew someone would come. Whether it was you, Jennifer's family trying to get a piece, or some other ghost from my past. When you have money, Andrew, everyone who ever ignored you suddenly remembers you exist. I wanted to see which category you fell into. Friend or vulture? And which am I? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. At the defeat in his shoulders, the desperation in his eyes, the way he clutched that envelope like a lifeline. Part of me saw the little boy who used to help me in the garage, handing me tools and asking how things worked. Part of me saw the man who'd stood in a driveway and called me an embarrassment. That depends on what you do next, I said. The friend honors the conditions and does the work. The vulture cashes the check and disappears until they need more. I left him there in that expensive hotel room, staring at $50,000 that probably seemed like an insult compared to what he'd asked for. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. The lobby seemed brighter, louder. Outside, the autumn air was cold on my face. My phone buzzed before I'd made it 2 blocks. Andrew, don't contact me again until you've fulfilled the conditions, I said instead of hello. I just wanted to say I'm going to do it. All of it. I'm going to prove to you I can be better. Don't prove it to me, I said. Prove it to yourself. I already know who I am and what I'm capable of. The question is whether you ever will. I hung up and kept walking. 3 months later, the first letter arrived. It was barely a page, handwritten on lined notebook paper. Dear Dad, I started the job at the warehouse. It's minimum wage, loading trucks. My back hurts. I hate it, but I'm showing up every day. I found a therapist. Her name is Dr. Ross. First session was hard. She asked me why I abandoned you. I didn't have a good answer. I'm volunteering at the mission on East Hastings. Seeing people who have less than I did at my worst. It's humbling. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but I'm sorry anyway. Andrew. I read it twice, then filed it away in a drawer. I didn't respond. The second letter came 4 weeks later. Dear Dad, paid first month's rent on a basement suite. $600. It's small and cold, but it's mine. Therapist asked if I was angry at you for only giving me $50,000. I said yes. She asked if I had a right to be angry. I couldn't answer that. Met a man at the shelter named Frank. 68 years old, lost everything to addiction. He asked what brought me there. I said I was trying to become a better person. He said that's the only reason anyone should do anything. Still sorry. Andrew. The letters kept coming. Once a month, like clockwork. Sometimes they were longer, detailing his therapy breakthroughs or his struggles at work. Sometimes they were brief, just a few lines acknowledging another month had passed. I read every one. I didn't respond to any of them. After 6 months, a different kind of letter arrived. Dear Dad, got promoted to shift supervisor, 30 cents more per hour. It's not much, but I earned it. Dr. Ross says I'm making progress. We talked about shame today, about how I've been running from it my whole life, letting it make my decisions. Volunteered 40 hours this month instead of 20. Frank died last week. Heart attack. I was there. He told me to keep going, that redemption is possible for anyone who wants it bad enough. I cried at his funeral. First time I've cried for someone else in years. Made my first payment toward the $50,200. It's going to take forever at this rate, but I'm doing it. Andrew. I put that letter in the drawer with the others. There were 17 now. 17 months of Andrew showing up, doing the work, keeping his promises. It was more consistency than he'd ever shown in his entire adult life. At the 18-month mark, the letters started changing. Dear Dad, $9,000 paid back. $41,000 to go. Got another promotion. Assistant manager now. $42,000 a year. Still not enough to live well, but enough to live. Dr. Ross graduated me from weekly sessions to monthly. She says I've done the hard work. Now it's about maintaining it. Jennifer reached out last month. Wanted to know if I could help with Ethan's college fund. I said no. First time I've ever said no to her. It felt good. Met someone. Her name is Sarah. She's a nurse. She knows everything about my past. She's sticking around anyway. I don't understand it, but I'm grateful. Realized something at the shelter last week. I've spent my whole life looking for shortcuts, for easy answers, for someone else to fix my problems. You gave me the hardest answer possible. Fix yourself. I hated you for it. Now I understand it was the only answer that would work. Thank you. Andrew. I held that letter for a long time. 18 months of silence from my end, and still he kept writing. Still, he kept working. Still, he kept showing up. For the first time since that day in the hotel, I allowed myself to hope. At the 24-month mark, I broke my silence. I wrote back. Andrew, your last letter mentioned Sarah. I'd like to meet her. If you're willing, you could both come for dinner next Saturday, 6 p.m. I'll cook. Dad. The response came within days. Dad, yes. God, yes. We'll be there. Thank you. Andrew. That Saturday, I cleaned my modest house in North York. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom bungalow I'd bought after the company sale. I could have afforded a mansion, but I'd learned the hard way that size didn't equal happiness. I prepared pot roast, Eleanor's recipe, my late wife who'd passed 5 years before everything fell apart. 6 p.m. came. The doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Andrew standing there with a woman beside him. It looked different, healthier. The desperation was gone from his eyes, replaced with something that looked like peace. Dad, he said. His voice cracked. This is Sarah. Nice to meet you, Mr. Harrison, she said, extending her hand. Please, call me Jack. They came inside. We sat at my small dining table, the one I'd built myself from reclaimed wood. Dinner was awkward at first, filled with careful small talk and long pauses, But slowly, gradually, we found our rhythm. Andrew told me about his job, about his apartment, about the community college classes he'd started taking. Sarah told me about her work at the hospital, about how she and Andrew had met at a volunteer orientation. You volunteer too? I asked her. Been doing it since I was 16, she said. My father always said the measure of a person is how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Smart man. Over dessert, Andrew set down his fork. Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I've paid back $32,000. I've got $18,000 left. At my current rate, I'll have it done in 14 months. 3 years total. That's good, Andrew. That's real progress. But that's not what I wanted to tell you. It took a deep breath. I don't need the relationship. I mean, I want it. God, I want it so badly. But I don't need it. For the first time in my life, I'm okay on my own. I'm not doing this to get something from you. I'm doing it because it's who I want to be. I felt something loosen in my chest, a tension I'd been carrying for 2 years. That's all I ever wanted to hear. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why didn't you just write me the check? Give me the $1 million or $5 million or whatever? You could have solved all my problems instantly. I could have. So why didn't you? Because I watched you grow up getting everything you wanted. I watched you expect the world to hand you success because of who your mother was, who I was, what connections we had. I watched you fail again and again because you'd never learned to build something yourself, to earn something yourself. I gave you everything, except the one thing you actually needed, which was the chance to fail completely and climb back out on your own. I let you hit bottom. I let you struggle. I let you suffer, because that's where character is built, not in success, but in how you handle failure. He wiped his eyes. I resented you so much for that. I know. But now I understand it was the greatest gift you could have given me. We sat in silence for a moment. Sarah reached over and squeezed Andrew's hand. There's something else, Andrew said. I want you to meet your grandchildren, Ethan and Sophie. They're 17 and 15 now. They don't really know me, but I'm working on that. She's been okay about letting me see them more. And I want them to know their grandfather. I'd like that. One condition though. Anything. We do it slow. We build this right. No rushing, no forced happy family. We earn back what we lost. Agreed. Andrew stood, came around the table, and pulled me into a hug. I'm proud of you, I said. Not because of the money you've paid back, not because you followed my conditions, but because you did the work when no one was watching. Because you became someone worth knowing. That's the man I raised. He's been hiding for a long time, but I'm glad he's back. We stood there in my small dining room, father and son, rebuilding something that had been shattered 18 years ago. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was real. Sarah insisted on helping with dishes. Andrew and I sat on the back deck, watching the sun set over Toronto. Dad, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you have someone? After Mom died, after everything happened, did you ever? I dated a few times. Nothing serious. I poured everything into the company. It was easier than dealing with people. Do you regret that? Sometimes. But I also learned I'm okay alone. That's important. Knowing you can be happy with just yourself. That's what Andrew's learning too, Sarah called from inside. Sorry. I was eavesdropping. We all laughed, and it felt good, natural. Like maybe we could actually be a family again. Before they left, Andrew handed me an envelope. What's this? This month's payment, $2,000. I took it, looked at the check, then handed it back. What are you doing? You've proven your point. You've done the work. The rest of the $50,000, consider it a gift. Dad, no. I need to finish what I started. Andrew, you've paid back $34,000 over 2 years through honest work while volunteering and going to therapy and rebuilding your entire life. You've earned the forgiveness. The money doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me. Then keep paying it if you need to. But know that as far as I'm concerned, the debt is paid. You don't owe me anything except honesty going forward. He hugged me again, harder this time. I love you, Dad. I'm so sorry for everything. I know. I love you too. After they left, I sat on my deck for a long time, thinking about the journey that had brought us here. 32 years building a company from nothing. 18 years of silence and separation. 2 years of watching my son rebuild himself through sheer determination. The money had been nice. 73 million was more than I'd ever dreamed of having. But this moment of reconciliation, of seeing Andrew become the man he was capable of being, this was worth more than any bank account. I thought about that day in the hotel when I'd wanted to just hug him, to tell him everything was forgiven, to write him a check for $1 million and fix all his problems. I'm glad I didn't, because that wouldn't have fixed anything. It would have just repeated the same cycle, him depending on money, on shortcuts, on someone else's success, instead of building his own. The tough love had hurt. Watching him struggle had hurt. Maintaining silence for 2 years had hurt. But it had worked. My phone buzzed with a text. Andrew. Made it home. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for everything. See you next Saturday if you're free. I'm free. I'll cook again. Another text came through, this one with a photo attached. It was Andrew at what looked like the food bank, helping an elderly man carry a box. Frank's bench, the text said. They put a plaque there in his memory. I volunteer an extra shift every week in his honor. Figured you'd want to know. I saved the photo, added it to a growing collection of evidence that my son was becoming someone worth knowing, someone with character, someone who understood that success wasn't measured in dollars but in the person you became along the way. The September sun was setting over Toronto, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere out there, Andrew was probably writing this month's letter, even though I'd told him the debt was paid. Somewhere out there, he was planning next Saturday's visit. Somewhere out there, he was becoming the father his own children deserved. And somewhere in here, in this modest house with this small garden, I was at peace with how everything had turned out. Because I'd learned something in those 18 years of silence, in those 32 years of building a company, in that moment in the hotel room when I'd chosen tough love over easy money. Success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in character. And character isn't built by what you're given. It's built by what you overcome. I'd overcome poverty and loss and abandonment to build something real. Andrew had overcome entitlement and desperation and his own worst instincts to become someone real. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Mr. Harrison, this is Jennifer, Andrew's ex-wife. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. It's fine. What can I do for you? I wanted to thank you. For what? For whatever you did to him. Andrew's different now. He's present with the kids. He's reliable. He's the man I thought I married. And Ethan told me they're meeting you next weekend. I just wanted to say, I'm glad. The kids need their grandfather. I appreciate that, Jennifer. There was a pause. Andrew told me what you did. The conditions, the tough love, all of it. I thought you were cruel at first, but now I see it was the only thing that would have worked. So, thank you. How are you doing? I asked. I'm good. Remarried, actually. To a good man this time. Someone stable. The kids like him. I'm happy for you. And Jennifer? Yes? Andrew's not the same person he was. Give him a chance with the kids. He's earned it. I will. I promise. After we hung up, I walked to my small garage. The same garage where I'd started Harrison Industrial Solutions 32 years ago. I'd kept it, even though I didn't need it anymore. Sometimes I came out here just to remember. To remember the early days of grinding metal and welding seams and building something from nothing. To remember the feeling of creating something with my own hands. Inside, I'd set up a small workshop. Nothing fancy, just some basic tools and a workbench. I'd started taking projects again, small things for neighbors who needed repairs. I didn't charge much. Sometimes I didn't charge at all. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the work itself, about staying connected to who I'd been, about remembering that success was built one piece at a time. On the wall, I'd hung a photo. Me and Andrew 25 years ago in this very garage. He was maybe 18, holding a wrench, covered in grease, grinning at the camera. Back before everything went wrong, back when he still looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. I'd get that look back. Not the same one. You can't recapture the past. But something new, something earned. Next Saturday came quickly. Andrew arrived with Ethan and Sophie. The kids were nervous, polite in that way teenagers are when meeting someone important. Grandpa Jack? Sophie said. She looked so much like Eleanor it hurt. Call me Jack. Grandpa makes me feel old. You are old, Ethan said, then immediately looked horrified. Sorry, I didn't mean. I laughed. I am old. 68 and counting. But I can still beat you at arm wrestling if you want to try. Really? Really? He couldn't, of course. 17-year-old athlete versus 68-year-old former welder. But I made a good show of it, and he laughed, and the ice was broken. We spent the afternoon in the garage. I showed them my old tools, told them stories about building the company, about the early days when failure seemed more likely than success. Andrew stood back, letting me connect with his kids, but I saw him watching, saw the pride in his eyes. Dad, Ethan said after a while. That's what he called me now, after hours of conversation. Dad, did Andrew really work in a warehouse? He did. For 2 years. Loading trucks, mopping floors, whatever needed doing. Mom said she said he used to be really successful, that he had a big house and fancy cars. He did. So what happened? I glanced at Andrew. He nodded. He made some bad choices, lost everything, had to start over from nothing. Like you did? Sophie asked. Exactly like I did. And just like me, he didn't make excuses. He didn't blame anyone else. He just put his head down and did the work. Is that why you're proud of him? Ethan asked. I'm proud of him because he could have taken the easy way out. He could have accepted help he didn't earn, taken money he didn't deserve, let someone else solve his problems, but he chose the hard way. He chose to earn his way back. That takes real strength. Sophie looked at her father. I'm proud of you too, Dad. Andrew's eyes filled with tears. Thanks, sweetheart. That means everything. We had dinner together, all 5 of us, including Sarah. We laughed, told stories, made plans for the next visit. After they left, Sarah pulled me aside. Thank you, she said. For what? For giving him conditions instead of cash. for making him earn his way back. A lot of fathers wouldn't have been that strong. A lot of fathers would have enabled their sons right into permanent failure. You gave him something better. You gave him himself. I didn't know what else to do. Well, it worked. And for what it's worth, you've gained a son and grandchildren. But you've also gained me. I'm not going anywhere. I'd like that. The visits became regular after that. Every other Saturday, sometimes more often. Andrew would bring the kids, or just Sarah, or sometimes just himself. We'd work in the garage, cook dinner, watch the game, do all the normal things fathers and sons do when they actually like each other. On the 3-year anniversary of that meeting in the hotel, Andrew arrived alone. He carried a briefcase, which was unusual. "Dad, can we talk?" "Of course. What's on your mind?" He opened the briefcase and pulled out a check, $50,000, paid in full, 3 years to the day. "I told you the debt was paid 2 years ago." "I know, but I needed to finish it. For me, not for you. I needed to prove I could complete something I started, that I could keep a promise. So this is it. We're even." He set the check on the table between us. "Now what?" he asked. "Now we're just father and son. No debts, no conditions, no proving ground. Just family." He smiled, and it was genuine, free of the desperation and manipulation that had colored every interaction for so long. "I like the sound of that. There's something else," I said. "I've been thinking about what to do with the rest of the money." "The rest?" "Dad, you sold your company for $73 million. Even after taxes and everything, you've got to have $60 million left. What are you going to do with it?" "I've been setting up a foundation." "For what?" "For people like you, people who've hit bottom and want to rebuild but need help. Not handouts, but structured support. Job training, therapy, mentorship, all conditional on them doing the work." He stared at me. "You're using your fortune to help people the way you helped me, the way I tried to help you. Whether it worked was up to you." "Dad, that's incredible. I want you to help run it." "What?" "You've been through the process. You know what works and what doesn't. You know what people need to hear when they're at their lowest. You could help others the way you helped yourself." "But I'm not qualified. I'm just a warehouse shift supervisor taking night classes." "You're someone who climbed out of rock bottom through sheer determination. That's the only qualification that matters. When do we start?" "We already have. I've been funding small programs for the last year, testing what works. But I want to expand it, make it real. Make it something that outlasts both of us. I'm in. Whatever you need." "Good. Because there's one condition." He laughed. "Of course there is. What is it?" "You have to finish your degree first. Business management. I've already set up a scholarship in your mother's name at Ryerson. Full tuition, but you have to maintain a 3.5 GPA. "Dad, I'm 46 years old." "So?" "I was 63 when I started rebuilding. Age is just a number. The question is whether you're willing to do the work." I hugged him then, right there in my living room. My son. Not perfect, not unmarked by his failures, but real, present, trying. That was enough. That was everything. 5 years after that meeting in the hotel, I stood in a small community center in East Vancouver, the same neighborhood where I'd stood in food bank lines 18 years ago. The room was packed with people, men and women, at various stages of rebuilding their lives. Andrew stood beside me, now holding a degree in business management and working full-time for the Harrison Foundation. "Today we're announcing the expansion of our program," Andrew said to the crowd. 50 new slots for people who are ready to do the work, ready to rebuild, ready to become who they're capable of being. There's no free lunch here. You'll have conditions, requirements, goals to meet. But if you're willing to put in the work, we're willing to walk beside you every step of the way." A woman in the back raised her hand. "What if we fail? What if we can't meet the requirements? Then we'll help you figure out why and try again," I said. "This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when you want to quit, even when it seems impossible. Because I've been where you are. My son's been where you are. And we're proof that rock bottom isn't the end. It's just the foundation you build on." After the presentation, people lined up to apply. Men and women with stories like mine, like Andrew's, like millions of others who'd lost everything and wanted a chance to rebuild. We took applications. We scheduled interviews. We prepared to change lives, one struggling person at a time. Andrew stood beside me, greeting applicants, sharing his story, offering hope. "This is what the money was for," I said to him quietly. "Not to make me comfortable or rich or powerful, to make this possible, to take my success and turn it into other people's second chances. You could have spent it on yourself. Big house, fancy cars, world travel. No one would have blamed you, but none of that would have meant anything. This, seeing someone's face when they realize they have a chance, that's worth more than any mansion." "You sound like Mom. She used to say that success wasn't about what you accumulated but what you shared. Your mother was a smart woman. I wish she could see this. She can. And she's proud of both of us." That night, back at my modest house, I sat on the deck watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. He'd just finished his first year at university, studying engineering like his grandfather. "Grandpa Jack, got my grades back. 4.0 GPA. Taking you and Dad out to celebrate. My treat. I smiled. The cycle had been broken. No more entitlement. No more expecting handouts. No more running from failure. Just honest work, earned success, and the understanding that character mattered more than dollars. My phone rang. Andrew. Dad, I got a call from the provincial government. They want to partner with us, expand the foundation province-wide. It could help thousands of people. That's incredible. There's just one thing. What's that? They want us both at the meeting. You and me together, presenting as a team. Father and son. The man who built a company from nothing, and the son who rebuilt himself from nothing. They think it's a powerful story. It is a powerful story. When's the meeting? Next Tuesday. I'll be there. Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For making me work for it. For teaching me that sometimes the hardest love is the truest love. You did the work, Andrew. I just pointed you in the right direction. Still, thank you. After we hung up, I walked to the garage one more time, looked at that old photo of Andrew and me, young and hopeful and covered in grease. We'd lost that, but we'd built something better, something earned, something real. The foundation would grow. It would help hundreds, maybe thousands of people rebuild their lives. It would turn my $73 million into something that mattered, something that would outlast me. But more than that, it had given me back my son, not the entitled boy who'd called me an embarrassment. The man who'd learned that success was built one hard day at a time, one honest choice after another, one act of character when no one was watching. That was worth more than any amount of money. That was the real inheritance. I turned off the garage light and went inside. Tomorrow, I'd work on foundation business. Tomorrow, I'd help more people find their way back from rock bottom. Tomorrow, I'd build something that mattered. But tonight, I'd sleep peacefully, knowing that the hardest decision I'd ever made, refusing to rescue my son and forcing him to save himself, had been the right one. Because sometimes the cruelest kindness is teaching someone they're stronger than they think. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to prove themselves, even if it means watching them struggle. Even if it means standing back when every instinct screams to jump in and fix everything. Even if it means 18 years of silence followed by 3 years of conditional support followed by a lifetime of earned respect. That was true love. That was real family. That was success. And it was worth every difficult moment. The September sun set over Toronto, painting the sky in gold. Somewhere out there, my son was building something meaningful. Somewhere out there, my grandchildren were learning that character mattered more than comfort. Somewhere out there, the foundation was changing lives, one struggling person at a time. And here, in this small house with this small garden, I was exactly where I needed to be. Successful not because of what I'd accumulated, but because of what I'd shared. Not because of what I'd given, but because of what I'd taught. Not because I'd saved my son, but because I'd given him the tools to save himself. That was enough. That was everything. That was the story I'd tell if anyone asked. My son called me an embarrassment for 18 years. Then I sold my company for $73 million. And I gave him $50,000 with conditions attached. Best decision I ever made.